Welcome to Mead Tasters. I'm your host, Christian Doing, and today I have a special guest with me. It's my sister, Shawna McGreevy.
Oh, you called your sister special.
Yeah, you're just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, Shawna is a professional cake maker, and she's actually got quite a strong following throughout the world. And I thought she would be the perfect guest for today's mead that we're tasting, which is from Haymaker Meadery. Adam Crockett is the mead maker, and this particular mead is a honey wine dessert style mead called Cake, Cake, More Cake.
I love it already.
Cake, Cake, and More Cake. And so Shawna is, like I said, a professional cake maker. And so I thought she would be the perfect person, seeing that you're a cake expert, to taste this with me, and we could talk about how yummy it is and see if people would want to, try it for themselves and see what mead could be and how awesome mead could be. And I want to talk about I just want to mention that the purpose of Mead Tasters, this video and the podcast that I do, is for the purpose of exposing more people to mead. So most people don't understand what mead is, or they've never heard of it, or if they have heard of it, they're still not quite sure what it is. They just know it has something to do with honey and booze. And what I like to tell people is that mead is an alcoholic beverage made from honey. It's that simple, but a lot of people still don't understand what that is. So you got to start by understanding how alcohol is made. So all alcohol is made from yeast eating sugar, and then it creates alcohol and carbon dioxide as byproducts. So again, yeast consumes sugar, and the byproducts are alcohol and carbon dioxide. It doesn't matter what your sugar source is. It could be any kind of sugar. Like in wine, the sugar source tends to be grapes, or technically any kind of fruit for wine. The sugar source for beer is grain, and the sugar source for mead is honey. So the yeast consumes the honey. We mix honey and water together. We add yeast, and the yeast consumes the honey and creates alcohol and carbon dioxide. And the cool thing about mead is that the possibilities are limitless in terms of ingredients. So you can add all kinds of different ingredients to a mead and be as creative as you can be. So for example, this particular mead here is made in the likeness of cake. So we're hoping and expecting that it will taste like cake. And so Shawna's going to help make that discernment with and for me. Mm-hmm. So before we start, Shawna, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into cake making and ultimately blew up into this massive celebrity in the cake world? It's true. I mean, it's true.
I don't know about celebrity.
If you do some research into Shawna McGreevy and McGreevy Cakes and Cake Heads, you'll see that she has a worldwide audience and following. So,
well, just kind of like anything else in the world, it started off really small, and it became a passion of mine. What happened was I used to teach elementary school, and when Thomas, my husband, and I started having our kids, I knew I wanted to be done teaching. So I stayed home, and we ended up having 4 children. And when my youngest was about 6 months old, I decided, I want to try and make some cool cakes for the kids' birthdays. I was always into art as a kid. I just never really did anything with it. So I actually got on YouTube for the very first time. It was like in 2011. And I was looking around and I saw all these really cool cakes. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try to do this. So I started, watching some tutorials, and I just made this actually for KK, for Chris's daughter, my niece, was the very first cake I ever made. And it was the ugliest thing. But I had so much fun making it. Actually, our whole family is supposed to come over here. I don't know if you remember this, to celebrate KK's birthday here. And I made this cake, but there was this snowstorm that was happening. And so, you know, my sister, my mom, Chris, they were calling me up one by one to say, we're not coming. There's a snowstorm. And I said, yes, you are coming. We've lived in Buffalo all our lives. What are you, wimps? I made a cake. You're coming. So actually everybody ended up coming. We had this cake and I was just hooked. So I started making cakes for all of my family, for my friends. And it was a hobby. I loved it. I had so much fun doing it. And eventually did it so often that my husband convinced me to start a business. And so I started selling cakes to customers. And then I started a blog and a YouTube channel just showing how I was making the cakes. I got into it so much that it kind of caught on a little bit. My Facebook page, you know, started to get some attention. Magazines were starting to call me to be on the cover of magazines, which blew my mind. I didn't know what was happening. And then people started flying me around the world to teach cake decorating classes, and I had a background in teaching. So, you know, that was really fun. But having 4 kids, I was like, okay, I can't travel anymore. What else can we do? So we actually have recently started an online school, cake decorating school called Cakeheads. It's cakeheads.com, where I teach the art of cake decorating. And we have an amazing community where people just kind of learn and ask questions and just have fun learning how to make pretty cool cakes. So yeah,
the cakes are killer. If you go to the Instagram page and just check out all the different cakes, Chris. It's just kind of mind-blowing, actually. I didn't realize
I'm glad we have this on video. You saying this about your sister.
Didn't realize she was that creative, but she is. So, and I'm glad that she's here with me today to taste cake, and more cake from Haymaker Meadery. So you can go to haymakermeadery.com and check out Adam Crockett's, all his different creations that he has there. He has amazing meads. I've had them before, and that's why I feel highly confident that this is going to be an amazing mead as well. And I want to share it with everyone because of how awesome a mead maker he is. So.
A little Vanna White action.
All right, so let's go ahead and we'll open her up. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Just how awesome this looks in the glass. Very nice copper color. Okay, so now that we have her open, let's go ahead and take a sniff.
That's yummy.
Lovely. Delicious. It definitely reminds me of icing or frosting, however you call it in the cake world.
Frosting. Frosting or icing? Frosting. I've coined that now. That's me.
Frosting.
Reminds me of cream soda.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you're getting with when you smell cream soda is a lot of the vanilla bean.
Vanilla, yes.
Yeah, for sure. So
makes me laugh.
I'm getting that. Definitely smells like a very harmonious combination of vanilla bean and cocoa. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are cocoa nibs in here that he used to achieve some cocoa aroma and flavor. And he also used vanilla beans and cinnamon, and a little bit of ghost pepper is in the ingredients as well. And I'm not getting any kind of pepper smell or no heat, anything like that. There's no alcohol on the nose.
Nope.
So that tells me that it's probably going to be very smooth when we do taste it, because if you smell the alcohol, it's not always undesirable, but it kind of can show you that what's to come. And so when you do take a sip, you're probably going to get a little bit of the heat from the alcohol on there. So, but no heat from alcohol, no heat from the ghost pepper that's listed in the ingredients.
No, you could almost, can we make this into a perfume? It smells really good. Do I get to taste now?
Cake perfume.
Okay.
Hey,
It'll sell like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta corner that market right there. Bet all your loyal fans would, would jump on that.
Me.
All right, so now that we have it poured and we sniff the aroma a little bit, we want to just comment on the appearance a little bit. So it's a very beautiful coppery color in the glass. You know, it's a nice one of the shades or hues of honey for sure. And I should mention that the honey that Adam used was wildflower honey, and with a little bit of buckwheat honey. So wildflower is your standard honey, you know, flavor, you know, and an appearance where it's not too light, not too dark. It's wildflower somewhere in between usually. And the flavor also is usually not too mild and not too heavy, but somewhere in between, based off where the wildflowers were gathered by the bees, or the nectar, I should say, from the wildflowers. And but buckwheat honey is a very heavy honey. It's very earthy and dank, and just a lot more flavor and heaviness going on there. And he added some of that blended that with the wildflower to kind of give it a little more depth of flavor. I'm imagining. So, but it's a very beautiful color. It's very clear. So it's really pretty to look at in the glass. Elegance. There's tons of tears or legs, wine legs, it would be called. This is 12% alcohol. And so it's a wine strength. It's a honey wine. And, you know, because of the level of alcohol, you're going to get lots of legs like we are. And
so I just learned what legs are in my honey mead here.
Tears, drapes.
Tears, so not cake tears.
Not cake tears, no.
What are legs, Chris?
No, wine tears, wine legs. So the alcohol, the amount of legs is going to correlate to the amount of alcohol. So
but what are the legs? If somebody's looking at this, I didn't know what legs are until you told me.
Yeah, it's actually evaporation of alcohol up the side of the glass and then falling back down. And
so it's these little drops.
Yep, and there's a whole scientific thing that I don't have time to get into.
The legs, the tears, not cake tears, the tears falling down the side of the glass.
No cake tears. I mean, you know, when you have cake tears, other than when you make like happy mistakes.
Tears of cake.
Oh, tears.
You're so not a cake guy.
No, I'm not a cake guy. I'm not a cake guy. I'm a mead guy. I'm not a cake guy.
Right. Well, we both have tears. I'm going to taste it.
And also, lastly, we should note there's no bubbles, so no carbonation. This is a still mead, which like a still wine, no carbonation. And we would serve this at room temperature or slightly under room temperature, 50 to 60 degrees. Okay, so having said all that, let's go ahead and taste this.
This is the fun part.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers, brother. Swirl first. That's yummy.
That's sweet.
It's yummy.
It's sweet, literally and figuratively.
It's like vanilla cake.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of what I smelled in the aroma, that cocoa and vanilla combination, that icing, frosting.
Is it bad to drink it fast?
You want to appreciate it. I'll say that. You want to appreciate it, and you also want to be able to walk away from the table.
Very much appreciating it right now.
Without falling.
No, I never
fall. Yeah, it's just the honey is it's very prominent, and as a mead should be, very complex, and that's because the wildflower and buckwheat blended together is going to give you more complexity of flavor than if it was just wildflower. And there's it's sweet, but it's not too sweet. It's not cloying. There is a little bit of tartness, a slight little bit of tartness that just supports that sweetness so that it's not too much. So it kind of balances it out.
It's like a little subtler sweetness wise than a dessert wine, but along the same lines as a dessert wine. So I have been a wine drinker, for many years, but didn't really know about mead until my brother got into it and became very passionate about it. So I've been, sipping some of his mead that he's been making. So I don't have a lot of experience with mead, but I love it ever since you've been letting me taste it. And, I drink dry wine, but I also like sweet wine on occasion. But this is like, it's almost like, to me, a cross between the two. But I mean, obviously the honey, it's a whole different flavor, but
I just want to say real quick about the honey flavor. So just like with wine and grapes, grape juice tastes very different than wine, right? I mean, they're reminiscent. You can, when you taste wine, you can tell it kind of came from grapes. It's reminiscent, but it doesn't taste like grape juice. And the same with honey. I mean, honey tastes very different before it's fermented as opposed to after it's fermented. Fermented honey definitely has its own flavor, just like fermented grapes has its own flavor.
Yeah, it's so good. If you like dessert wine, this is definitely something you should try. And it's so pretty too. Like, it's such a great for your tablescape, when you're setting your table for having guests over. And most people don't know about mead. At least people that I know don't know about mead. And so it's a great, just give them a little taste and they'll think you're so cool. At least my friends will think I'm cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that bottom line, that if you are a sweet wine person, this particular mead, you're going to love it. Unless you hate honey for whatever reason, you're allergic to it, or I don't know if anyone's ever been allergic to honey, maybe. But this is something if you're into dessert wines and sweet wines, like, this is just phenomenal. I mean, the complexity of flavors, the deliciousness of it, the sweetness, the prettiness of it, the color, as opposed to white wine or red wine, is just unique. And
I like this so much better than white wine. I mean, so if you like white wine, this is definitely something to try too, because it's yummy. I should probably stop drinking.
So
to appreciate.
Well, speaking of that, there's not any kind of alcohol burn.
No,
so it's nice
not
and
at all.
smooth, easy drinking, dangerous probably, because if you did drink it, you could drink it too fast, because it's so easy to drink.
I would say it's easier to drink than red wine for a lot of people,
Right.
because it goes down a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah. And I think this would pair amazing with cake, for sure, especially like a white vanilla cake, an ice cream, vanilla ice cream.
Chocolate.
And chocolate too, yeah. I mean, so even though he used cocoa nibs or cacao nibs, whatever you want to call it, in here there's a little bit of cocoa expression, but it's not. I would say the vanilla definitely stands out more so. And there's no taste of any kind of ghost pepper heat or anything like that.
No, I would never know that was in there.
You wouldn't unless he told you.
But it's kind of cool to know that it's in there, because then when you explain that to your guests, it just sounds even cooler.
Right. So it's probably, one of those ingredients that helps tie all the others together.
The secret ingredient.
And the body and mouth feel, which is just, how it feels in the mouth. If you think of like milk, skim milk tastes real watery. Full fat milk tastes very thick in your mouth. And then, 2% milk is like somewhere in between. And that's kind of, what I tell people to think of when you're assessing the body and mouthfeel. And it's, I would say it's more like on the full fat milk side, not full, like somewhere between 2% and full fat, or whole milk, as they call it, because of the residual sweetness, for sure. That's what brings the feel in the mouth, the viscousness, for sure. So
I don't do much assessing of that. I just like to drink it. It's delicious.
Agreed. I agree with you. And I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, you could have stopped at, I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I hear that all my life.
Can't give you too many props, or I wouldn't be the big brother that I feel I should be.
Right.
You know, got to keep your head less swollen. So, but anyhow, so I encourage you to go to haymakermeadery.com and check and see if it's available. I don't know. I think this one sells out a lot, so there could be a chance that it's not available. But Adam makes amazing meads, all different kinds. So you can go there and see what looks good to you. If you order it, it can be shipped right to your home from the website, and you're not going to be disappointed, especially if you identify flavors of that he puts on. He describes what flavors are in his different meads and what they generally taste like, and you can pick something, have it delivered. You won't be let down for sure. So haymakermeadery.com. Cake heads.
In honor of
people that want to make cakes.
Yes,
like
but
awesome cakes.
I should mention that in honor of our tasting here, my brother asking me to be a mead taster for Haymaker Meadery's Cake, and More Cake. I actually made a cake because, duh. That was honey mead themed with a chocolate mead bottle with an edible label, Haymaker Meadery's Cake, and More Cake label. On my YouTube channel, I have a video of how I put part of it together. And then on Cake Heads, I have the full video of how I made everything in the cake. It's got a honeybee on it and, you know, some fun stuff. So you can definitely check that out too. And yes, cakeheads.com is where you would find that full video.
So yeah, any of you out there that are into cake making, you have to definitely check out Shawna's website, or at least some of her videos on YouTube that she has. Shows you some of her early stuff, how to make different cakes and how she does things. So check her out. And thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And we'll be sure to put some shots of the cake in this video as well. So
sounds good.
All right. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Mead Tasters. Till next time. Cheers.
Cheers.